Just to flesh this out, a tiered operating system would be one where only some of the reserves are compensated with.
Yeah, I think the way they do it is like it's basically by the amount of reserves. The interest rate varies.
Okay.
Right. And then there's some that are actually quota systems that if you get above a certain level, then you're not going to get.
So it incentivizes
interest.
banks to economize on the reserves that aren't compensated at the
Correct.
central bank.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say we were to go that direction. Let's say the Fed, some point in the future, heads down that path. Would that revive the federal funds market? Would that get us back to where we were before?
Well, it's hard to know whether we get back to where we were, but it would probably increase the number of transactions in that market from where we are today, which again is something I think is worth considering. I would think that we'd want to try to estimate whether that's a good thing or not. I mean, this is part of the issue about, and I said specifically at the talk that this shouldn't be read as we should go back to scarce reserves. I personally think the transition costs back to scarce reserves may not justify the benefits. But I do think it's wise to be very astute to the fact that the ample reserves regime doesn't give you everything that is often touted to, right? It doesn't necessarily increase liquidity, for example. If banks are, hoarding reserves or keeping the reserves in stress conditions because their demands on those reserves have gone up. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a firm floor unless you add these other facilities.
Yes.
So again, and it does open yourself up to more potential political pressures to do things that are not appropriate for a central bank to be doing. So again, I just wanted people to know that, things aren't as simple as they look, as at least what the theory would tell you, and to be astute to these issues and challenges.
But what you're saying is, look, let's just make a modest change and let's see what happens, right? And that's what Norges Bank did, Swiss National Bank, and even I think the other banks more recently, the ECB, Bank of England, the RBA, what they call it is a demand-driven operating system. But in general, it's a gentle move in the direction towards more healthy interbank activity.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you're right. The ECB just made an announcement, I guess, I don't know how many months ago, but it's relatively maybe a year ago about their new operating. And you're right, it's demand-driven floor system, right? It's kind of like, let's, get closer.
Yeah, baby steps.
Towards, making sure that we're giving the right incentives for banks to actually operate in that market.